Yeah, she said she had to leave. However, if you could just talk.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. Are you Efrain Bakara Smith?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Smith. Your lawyer's asked that this matter be continued,
Yeah,
and I
she
have
said she
granted
had
the
to
decision
leave.
to November 12th at 11:30.
All right,
Just want to let you know that.
that's fine.
All right, thank you for your time.
All right.
Your other comments, Ray?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm going to ask you to speak up, speak clearly so that we can all hear you. What is your name?
My name is Glendale Hill.
All right, Mr. Hill. And how are you employed?
I am employed, I am the sheriff of Prince William County, also elected by the people in the city of Manassas and Manassas Park.
And for how long have you held that post?
20 years.
Could you describe to the court your duties with relation to the courthouse and the courthouse complex?
Yes, I'm responsible for the safety and security of the courthouse, and I perform that duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm responsible for all the deputies that work in the courtrooms in the courthouse and the complex.
Yeah, she said she had to leave.
Um,
However, if you could just talk.
Now, let's call your attention back to July 3rd of this year. Was there anything unusual that attracted your attention on that day?
Yes, sir, it is.
What attracted your attention?
Approximately around 10:30 that morning, I heard a loud voice outside of my office. I looked outside the window and I saw the defendant in the circle in the courthouse talking loud.
Okay.
Yeah, she said she had to leave.
and-
However, if you could just talk.
Court's brief indulgence.
Sure.
Your Honor, in the defense motion, they had an exhibit A that was an aerial photo of this. I think it's already been admitted. I would like to refer to that.
All right, no problem. Any objection? Go ahead.
Permission to approach?
Sure.
Okay. I'm gonna show you a picture
Yeah, she said
here.
she had to leave.
Do you recognize this photograph?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you mark where the defendant was at that time when you first observed him? Okay. All right. And I'll show this. Now, and so you said you were in your office. Where is your office? Is that inside the building?
Yeah, she said
Yes, it
she
is,
had
on the
to
first
leave.
floor, yes.
Okay. And so you saw the defendant, you heard voices. What did you do in response to that?
I immediately left my office, and I was leaving the office. I mentioned to a couple of deputies, come with me. I need you to come outside with me.
Okay. And once you got outside, what did you observe?
I observed the defendant in the circle with a large sign, approximately 4x8 sign with some writing on that sign, still talking loudly when I went outside, yes.
Okay. Now, have you had prior interactions or dealings with the defendant?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Had you talked with him previously about the areas where protests are permitted or not permitted?
Yes, we did.
And what had you told him on previous occasions?
What was the question?
What had you told him on previous occasions?
We have a designated area in the courthouse complex that is used for demonstrations and protesters.
Okay. And if I can approach again, Your Honor?
Sure.
Could you mark on this map up the approximate location of that area? I think
This area.
okay.
Yeah, she said she had to leave. However, if you could just talk.
Your Honor, if I could just show you the markings that.
Sure. Any objection? We look at it.
Your Honor, he marked that the defendant, he originally observed him there in the center circle, and that this is the area where protest is.
Okay.
Have you observed the
Yeah, she
defendant,
said she had to leave, however, you could just talk.
in the designated area previously?
Yes, on many occasions, yes, sir.
Um, and so you observed the defendant on this day in that Center Island, what did you do?
When I arrived at the circle where the defendant was, I told him that he no longer could protest there and moved to the designated area that protesters are to use.
Okay. And you recall if the defendant said anything in
She had
response?
to leave, however, you could.
Excuse me, ask the question.
Do you recall if the defendant said anything in response?
Yes, he told me that he was exercising his First Amendment, and if he wanted to, he could protest inside the courthouse.
How many times was the defendant warned that he could not protest in that location?
I purposely warned him 3 times to go to the designated area.
And did the defendant do anything in response to those warnings?
Yes, he would not leave.
Yeah, she said she had to leave, however, you could just talk.
As a result of that, did you give sheriff's deputies an order?
Yes, to place him under arrest.
Now let's back up a minute and talk about this location. This is obviously immediately outside of the courthouse. Is the courthouse considered within Prince William County?
Yes, it is.
Is there anything unusual about the kind of jurisdictional boundaries?
The boundaries is the, we call it a hole in the donut. It's Prince William County's property located within the city of Manassas.
Okay. But everything that is on the courthouse complex is considered Prince William, as you say, the hole in the donut, so not Manassas City.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay. And what is the nature of your authority to regulate or exclude with regard to the courthouse complex?
To provide safety and security for the courthouse complex and the courthouse.
And do you have authority to exclude people from the courthouse?
Yes, I do.
Now, the person that you came into contact back on July 3rd, you see him in the courtroom today.
Yes, he's a defendant sitting at the desk.
The court, please note that he is identified as a defendant.
Yeah, she said she had to leave, however, you could just talk.
Thank you very much. Those are all the questions that I have. Please answer any questions that the defense counsel or court may have.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon.
A few follow-up questions I always asked out directed, and I want to get into some details with you. You said that when you were in your office, you heard a loud voice, right?
Correct.
And you were in your office with your door shut?
Yes.
What was your?
Well, my office door was not shut, no. My office is next to the window.
And the window is directed out to where my client was?
Yes, I could see him, yes.
Were your windows open?
No, it was not.
Could you approximate how many feet away your office was?
I would say maybe 50 to 60 feet.
Okay. And when you got outside, you had noticed that there were other individuals protesting in a different
Yeah,
area,
she
right?
said she had to.
The people were protesting in the designated area that we had designated for protesters, yes.
And did you hear them shouting?
At the time, I do not recall.
Okay, is it possible that when you were in your office and you heard a loud noise, you were actually hearing other individuals in the designated area that were shouting and not my client?
I don't know where the noise was coming from, but I noticed your client in an area that he was not supposed to be.
Okay, so then let's parse
Yeah,
that.
she said she had to.
So
leave,
you're
however,
acknowledging that when you were in the office and you heard a loud noise outside, you're acknowledging that it might not have actually been my client, but you did notice my client in an area that you claim he wasn't allowed to be.
Protesting, correct.
Okay. Regardless of the sound.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned a designated area. Can you explain what
Yeah,
that
she said
means?
she had to.
The designated area that the defendant was in, there's an area designated basically for court purposes, for foreclosures, auctions, and also we've used the area for sheriff sales.
Okay, so you're saying, you're now talking about, for our purposes, I want to talk about, I call it the small public park, that circular roundabout that my client was in, okay? In that small public park, You're claiming that that was not a quote designated area, right?
Not for protesters, no, sir, it's not.
And you claim it was designated for these other things, right?
Yes, it's been used for those purposes, yes.
Okay. Do you have a document or any kind of authority that you can show the court where this is laid out as the official policy?
No, I do not have a document to show you, no.
So is it fair to say that this, let's call it a quote-unquote policy, that circular, small circular park, according to you, is not allowed to have protesters in
Yeah, she
it?
said she
Is
had
it fair to say that that policy is just something that you've kind of made up?
We do not allow protesters there because we wanted to make sure that protesters are safe and secure while they're here, away from the public that is conducting business.
So respectfully, that wasn't my question. I'm gonna ask my question again. Is it fair to say that that policy, quote-unquote policy that you just described, is really just something
Yeah, she said
you've
she
made
had
up?
to leave, however, you could just.
Well, it's been a policy of my office since I've been sheriff to use that area as a designated area for court purposes.
But it's not written anywhere, correct?
No, I wouldn't say it's written anywhere, no.
Okay. It's not posted anywhere.
No, not posted.
It's not statutory authority, right?
Well, I have the authority to protect and serve the citizens that come and use the courthouse on the property.
Okay. But it is fair to say that this policy that you've just described, that people are not allowed to quote-unquote protest in that small public park, comes from only one place and one place only, and that is from you, since you've been working, essentially telling your employees, this is my rule, this is my policy, right?
It's for the purpose of protecting the protesters and the courthouse personnel and the people that visit the courthouse to keep protesters and the public.
Yeah, she said she
I'm
had
not
to
Separate.
asking
leave,
why.
however.
I'm not asking why it's written in the policy yet. I'm just asking that's where it comes from.
Yes,
And now you say, now that we know that this quote-unquote policy has just come from you, just making that determination yourself, my question to you is, how do you define quote-unquote protest under your quote-unquote policy?
if a person is holding up a sign and making loud noises and talking loud to get, I guess, attention from the public, yes, I consider that a protest.
That's how you define protest under your policy, right?
Yes.
And that's not, that definition, it's not written anywhere, right?
Well, it's not done, protesters, I look at a person protesting is doing it peacefully and talking loud and annoying, disturbing the operation, orderly operation of the courthouse is not protesting.
Well, that was my question. Again, I'm just asking, is it that what you just laid out as how you define it, that definition is not written anywhere, it's not posted anywhere, right?
Well, I know what protesters do.
I'm just asking you, sir, if it's written or posted anywhere.
No, it's not.
Okay. And now my question to follow up on that is, you kind of just testified that you actually define and view protesting as being peaceful
Yeah,
and
she
quiet,
said she
right?
had to leave, however, you could just.
Peaceful and quiet, I consider that protesting or some type of demonstration with a sign in your hand
So-
and peacefully talking.
Okay, so if somebody is in the small public park, sitting there with a note card that says, I love cats, and they're talking to the person next to them, and they're like, I just love cats, is that protesting?
I wouldn't consider that protesting, no.
Why not?
I couldn't hear what they're saying or what they're doing.
Okay, perfect. So really where you draw the line for what's permissible protesting and what's not is the volume that they're speaking, right?
Or if a person is doing something that's unusual in that particular area.
Okay. I want to go through, a little bit of video with you, okay? Your Honor, if it's okay with the Commonwealth Police Court, I'll
Yeah,
have
she
to
said
show
she
this
had
or
to leave,
try
however.
to show everybody.
We're afraid of the sheriff and see him come up and come up, and I'll move over if I need to.
So I'm just going to first just play a couple seconds of this to see if you recognize what this is. Now I'm going to pause it. I've just paused it after a couple seconds. You hear that shouting, right?
From my office.
No, the shouting in this video just lasted a couple seconds. Did you hear that shouting?
Yeah, she said she had.
That shouting. You hear that
I
shouting?
hear some shouting.
That's not coming from him, right?
I don't know who it's coming from.
Well, you see his mouth. It wasn't coming from him, right?
I don't know if he,
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll rewind it. I would ask that you watch this individual and tell me if you see the shouting coming from him. All right, I'll pause it. Is that shouting coming from him?
I don't know.
Wait, hold on. I just want to make clear for this unofficial record. I've paused it at
She said she had.
2:03 in the video. You don't know whether or not that shouting you just heard is coming from this man. That's your.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll resume playing.
It's all good, ma'am? It's all coming out?
All right, I've paused it again. You hear the volume that he's talking about, right?
I hear someone talking, yes.
You see his mouth, right?
Well, I can't read his lips, no.
Well, I'm not asking if you can read his lips. I'm saying you can see his mouth moving, right? You know that he's talking, right?
Look, Amy Ashworth is fogging up the window right there.
She had to leave.
You see her right there? Hello, Commonwealth, Amy Ashworth. What, are you upset that there is a sign right here? A sign right here that
All
says...
right, I'm going to pause it again. You're not disputing that that's him talking, right? You can tell that's him talking, right?
I guess it's him talking. I'm not for sure.
Okay. Would you describe the level that he's talking as yelling?
In that particular video,
Yes.
Yeah, she said she had to leave.
probably he's talking loud, but the noise I heard from my office that morning was a lot louder than that.
Perfect. Okay, so it's your testimony that the level of noise you're hearing from him right now was not the level of noise that you heard from your office.
Someone got my attention with loud noise that morning.
Gotcha. And it's your testimony that the level of noise you just heard from him, you would not classify that as yelling, right? I can continue to play more if you'd like.
If you like, you can play more.
Okay.
Yeah, she said
Because
she had to
I'll do this. I'm going to ask you after I play it a little bit longer to testify as to what your interpretation is of the level of noise that's coming out of his mouth, the volume.
Ashworth protects a jail that murders people? Yep, she does.
Okay, I paused it. Would you call that yelling?
Probably not.
Okay. And at no point did he have a bullhorn or anything like that, right?
At that point, no. I did not hear bullhorn.
You never saw one that day.
Yes, when I went out to the area that he was in, it was a bullhorn on the ground.
You never saw him holding it, did you?
No, I did not.
18-year-old
And what I'll do is I'm going to forward this to the area where you make contact. And I just want to be clear, what we're looking at here, this is a fair and accurate representation of what you were sort of seeing that day, right?
Yeah, she said she had to leave.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
Are you going forward?
Yes, Your Honor, I apologize. I'm fast forwarding to where the police officers or sheriff's officers make contact. And I can just, I've forwarded to a random part of the video. It's 4 minutes and 4 seconds of the video. I'll just play again just so we can get a sense of the volume that's coming out of Mr. Al-Jazari's mouth.
We're here every day. And we're going to talk about my brother Mustafa Al-Jazari. We're going to talk about the 6 inmates that were murdered.
All right, I'll continue to forward it. All right, now I'll rewind a bit because I took it back. I've paused at 4:50. I'm going to play it and ask you some questions, so I just ask that you focus on the video.
Jerry, how are you, sir? Sheriff Glenhill. Say hello to Sheriff Glenhill. No, sir.
I've paused it at 4:55. So this is the point where you make contact, right?
Yeah, she said she had to leave. However,
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
What's going on, sir? This is public property, sir. This is public property, sir. I'm not using a bullhorn. I'm exercising my First Amendment.
It's not the bullhorn word I'm referring to. The
Yes, sir.
protesting
Is it the sign that says Amy Ashworth?
I'm sorry.
Is it the sign that says Amy Ashworth protect HL? No, sir. No, sir. I will not take that sign.
I've paused it at 5:21. That's you in the corner, right?
That looks like half of me there. I can't see the whole
Half
picture
your
there.
body.
That looks
Okay.
half of me.
So is this a fair and accurate representation of when you
Yeah,
made
pretty
contact?
much, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
And during this contact, would you say Mr. Al-Jazari was disrespectful?
No, he was not.
Okay. And during this interaction, Mr. Algezer was not yelling, right?
At that point, no.
Okay.
This is public property. I'm exercising my First Amendment.
And I'll pause it again. In your interactions with Mr. Algezer and in the other officers' interactions, Mr. Algezer was continuing to assert that he genuinely believed he had a First Amendment right to be there, right?
Objection calls for speculation if there's genuine belief.
I'm asking about what Mr. Algezer was stated to him and what he observed from Mr. Algezer.
You can ask him what Mr. Algeria stated to him, and what he observed from him, but not what his opinion is, of
Sure.
what he's thinking.
At any point in your interactions with Mr. Algezer, did Mr. Algezer say or do anything that made you believe that Mr. Algezer didn't think he had a lawful right to be there?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to that. I think that's calling for the sheriff to opine as to the defendant's state of mind and his beliefs.
I'll rephrase the question. When you made contact with Mr.
Yeah, she said
Algezer,
she had to leave.
did he explain to you why he wasn't leaving?
He only stated he was exercising his First Amendment right. That's the only thing he said.
Okay, and he never said anything like, I don't care that I'm not allowed here, I'm staying, nothing like that, right?
Only thing I recall him saying is that he was exercising his First Amendment right, and if he wanted to, he could protest inside the courthouse.
Sure, okay,
And he was very animated when he was talking.
sure. I'll continue to
She
play.
said she had to leave.
Sure? Yes, sir? Yes, sir? Yes, sir, talk to me. Okay. You can arrest me if you want for exercising my First Amendment. And I promise, why? I'm exercising my First Amendment. Why would you arrest me for exercising my First Amendment? No, sir, this is public.
Now, I've paused at 5:41. At this point in your interactions with him, you haven't told him, well, Mr. Algezer, I have a policy that protesting is not allowed here, and I think what you're doing is violating that policy. That's why you
Yeah,
need
she
to go.
said
You
she
never
had
said
to
that,
leave.
right?
However, you could just talk.
I told Mr. Alexander to leave that area and go back to the designated area.
Right. And you never said, because this violates my protest policy. You never said that, right?
Well, I've dealt with defendant
I'm
on
just
several
asking if you
occasions,
said that in this
and he knows where the designated area I was talking about.
I'm just asking if you told him in this interaction why he was not allowed to be doing that.
I don't recall.
Yeah, she said she had to leave. However, you could.
Okay.
Property. I'm not using a bullhorn. The bullhorn's right there. I'm not using it. You're gonna arrest me for what? Exercising my First Amendment on public property? I'm not resisting. I'm not resisting. I'm here. I've got a sign that says Amy Ashworth is protecting a jail that murders people. Now I've got sheriffs. There is no designated area when it comes to public property, sir. No, sir.
Yeah, she said she had
No,
to
sir.
leave.
No, sir. This is public property. Okay. Okay. For what? What am I getting arrested for?
So I'll pause it. He just asked you, what am I going to be arrested for? And your response was, I'll tell you what that's for, right?
I probably did, yes.
What am I getting arrested for, sir? What am I getting?
I'll pause it again. So he says again, what am I getting arrested for? And your response was, do what I tell you to do, right?
To avoid being arrested.
Right. That's what you said.
To avoid being arrested. I was trying to avoid that.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the relevance of this line of questioning. He was placed under arrest.
It's incredibly relevant for the reasons laid out in the brief, Your Honor. It can go to, number one, my client's, first of all, for a First Amendment case, my client's good faith belief that he had a First Amendment right to be there negates a trespass violation. Second of all, it demonstrates, it attacks the credibility of the witness's quote-unquote policy and whether or not this is in fact a legitimate policy.
Your Honor, a twofold aspect of that. I'm sorry, Mr. Whitaker, could you repeat the second part of what you just said for me?
It
Or
impeaches.
it impeaches the credibility. Your Honor, I think this goes in part to something that we
Yeah, she said
talked
she
about
had
in
to
the
leave.
brief.
However, you could
If you go, you still have our brief, go to page 7, footnote 2. There's a quote from a Supreme Court case, Davis v. Bartlett, that I think is very helpful, very instructive, that is talking about the policing unruly protests and the problems posed if we use a subjective intent standard for what different officers are doing. And it also lays out all the policy problems that could be posed by allowing for criminal defendants or civil litigants to be parsing through what one officer says or another officer says, because the net result would be that it incentivizes officers to shut their mouths and not say anything. There's no requirement that they provide somebody a warning a certain number of times or say, if you do X, you will be arrested for Y pursuant to code section such and so. This is in front of the courthouse. The sheriff is the individual who is tasked with the safety and security of the courthouse. With regard to, so I mean, in terms of the credibility, I would frankly submit that there's two things happening. One is that he is in fact being barred and told to leave. That, counsel can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think is subject to dispute. We all see they're asking him to leave. But their motivations for that, I think, is what counsel is going through there. And I think the sheriff has testified, hey, here's the reason why we were doing what we're doing. With regard to the idea that the defendant had a good faith belief that he was allowed to protest.
Yeah, she said she had to leave.
It is, I will admit, an interesting argument, but all of the cases out of trespass that talk about good faith belief are typically are relating not to somebody's belief about their constitutional rights, but it's usually something about their connection to the property. Oh, I thought that I had 30 more days before I had to leave, or oh, I had an easement. A good faith belief related to their ability to be on that property. If we allow it to be expanded from that to, oh, I believe that I have a legitimate First Amendment to be here, and my good faith can undercut that, it almost turns into a reverse good faith defense, whereby anybody, no matter how mistaken they might be about how the First Amendment works, could defeat a trespassing charge because they were believing in good faith that they were allowed to do that. I would respectfully submit, I don't think that's how this works. I think the good faith belief is really connected to situations where somebody has a connection to that property. He's just in a dispute with the officer about what his rights are, and the court has already ruled on that. I don't think he should get a second light of it, so to speak, and say, well.
As I understand the common suggestion is rather than suggesting a narrow objection on all the objection.
Thank you. And if I would like to make I'll say this. I have citations here for both the good faith belief and for an issue with the discretion issue.
So just so you all
Yeah, she
know, I
said she
did
had
know
to
in
leave.
reading your brief, I would like to see the evidence versus part of it. It did seem you cited it more than once. And if you have a copy, when we're all done, I'd like to take a look at it. So, do you have further questions?
Yeah, thank you. So back to the question again. He asked you, what am I being arrested for? And you said, do what you're told, and because I told you, essentially, right? I can rewind it if you'd like. I rewinded it to 6:22.
Yeah, she said she had to leave.
For what? What am I getting arrested for? What am I getting arrested for, sir? What am I getting?
I've paused it. Is that fair and accurate description?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
For, sir? I'm asking you a question. I'm peaceful. I'm not resistant. I'm exercising my First Amendment. This is public property. There is no designated area, sir. No, sir. We do not have designated area. This is public property. And if I want, I can be in that lobby as long as I'm not disrupting the peace.
Yeah, she said she had to leave.
Now, I've paused it. We're at 6:47. At no point yet has any officer said, you're being loud and unruly, right?
No, that was not the issue there.
Right.
At that point, no.
Right. You're just telling him you literally can't be here, regardless of whether or not you're being peaceful or not, right?
Yes, that particular area is not designated for protesters.
No, we're not moving anywhere. This is our First Amendment. I didn't go overseas for 3 years to have someone arrest me and infringe on my First Amendment. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, Sheriff Blue. I'm not disrupting the peace. This is public area. What are you gonna do?
All right, I've just paused it. Now, one of the officers has said, "Sir, you're under arrest for disorderly conduct," right? That's what the officer said.
I don't know what the officer said.
I'll
Yeah,
replay
she
it.
said she had to leave, however, you could just talk.
He's speaking in the background, so I just ask that you pay a little, very close attention.
I'm not disrupting the peace. This is public area. What are you gonna do? Okay, keep recording.
Did you hear that? "Sir, you're under arrest for disorderly conduct," right?
I heard there's a voice that said that.
Right.
I don't know who said it.
That's fine, but that's what you heard, right?
Yeah, someone said
Okay.
it.
And so somebody is making an arrest pursuant to your authority, right? They have authority to make the
Yeah, she said
arrest
she had
based
to
on
leave,
your instruction, right?
The deputies have the authority to work in my image.
Right, exactly. And the deputy working in your image didn't say, "You're under arrest for trespassing because it violates our policy," did he?
I didn't hear the deputy say that.
Right, he said-
Someone said it. I don't
No,
know
he
what.
didn't, nobody said that, right? Isn't it true that the only thing somebody said was, "You're under arrest for disorderly conduct," right? That's what he said.
I didn't hear the deputy say that.
Now you're saying you didn't hear him say
I
that?
mean, I don't know what the deputy said, no.
Okay. Do you deny that he said that?
Your Honor, we're gonna have that deputy testify. now.
That's okay, he can answer the question.
No, it's hearsay if he answers the question.
It's not for the it's not for the truth of the matter, sir.
I would object to the hearsay of the officer, of the other officer's statements.
It's not for truth of the matter asserted, it impeaches this witness. At no point did an officer say to him, "You're under arrest for trespass," right?
At that point?
Yes.
I don't hear anybody say anything.
And you had testified previously, almost right before this interaction, that you agreed he was not being unruly, right?
Animated,
Okay. Animated.
yeah, animated,
You
yes.
can't arrest somebody for disorderly conduct for being animated, right?
No,
Okay.
no.
I'll continue to play it.
Keep recording. I'm not resisting.
And now,
I'm not resisting.
I'll pause it at 7:17. This is the point at which my client is arrested, right?
At one point, he was arrested.
And even, I asked you previously about whether or not he was rude, disrespectful. Even during the arrest, he was not resisting, was he?
No, he did not.
He was not rude, was he?
Just, then again, he continued to be animated.
Okay, animated. So what I'll do is I'll fast forward to a later part of this video after the arrest occurs.
Yeah, she said she had to leave, however, you could just talk.
Well, actually, you know what? Here. You can skip the rest of it.
Yeah, she said she had to leave, however, you could just talk.
Have you ever, it is true, I want to talk about the small public park area where my client was, okay? Just in general, not necessarily specific to this issue. That area, that small public park, it has benches, right?
Yes, it does.
It even has something outside of it right now where people can put their cigarettes into it, right?
Yeah, she said she had to leave.
It probably does. I'm not sure.
It has brick flooring, right?
Concrete flooring.
You don't know if it's brick or
I
not.
don't know if it's brick or not.
There's steps going in and out of it.
Yes, it is.
It has trees to cover for shade, right? There's a large tree.
I believe it has one tree there.
Okay. It has landscaping, right?
Yes, I recall, yes.
This small public park, this is an area specifically designed for people of the community to go inside of, right?
Yes, people do go inside of it.
And people are allowed to go inside of it, right?
Yes.
And people can go inside of it and hold a sign that says, "I love cats," and stand there holding a sign that says, "I love cats."
Yes.
Okay. And people can go inside of it and talk animatedly about, "I love cats. They're the best." They can do that, right?
Yeah, she said she had to leave, however, you could just talk.
I don't see any problem with a person just conducting themselves in an orderly manner.
And it's important about what you just said, because you just said, "I don't see any problem." And that's so important because at the end of the day, What you see a problem with and what you don't see a problem with is all that matters when it comes to trespassing someone from that small public park, right?
No.
What else does
Yeah,
it
she
come down
said
to?
she had to leave.
Safety and security of the protesters and the public that may be in that particular area.
But that's what causes you to see or not see a problem, right?
I have a responsibility to protect the citizens and the employees of the courthouse.
If you don't see a problem with it, a person's not gonna get arrested for trespass, right? If
What?
someone's in the small, let me rephrase, if someone's in the small public park, talking, holding up a little sign, holding up any sign, and you look at the circumstances and you determine, I don't see a problem with that.
If that person is disturbing someone, it would be a problem.
I'm not asking about what makes you determine it's a problem. I'm asking a very narrow question. Whether or not you see a problem is all that matters.
Yeah, she said she had to.
If you don't see a problem, nobody's gonna get arrested for trespassing, right?
If the person is demonstrating in that area, I think I covered that with you earlier.
I'm not asking, you seem to think I'm asking you why you would or would not see a problem. I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you a very narrow, very simple question. If you look at somebody in that small public park and you determine, for whatever
Yeah,
reason,
she said she had to.
that you don't see any problem, then that person is not going to get arrested for trespassing, right?
If the person is conducting themselves in an orderly manner, I really don't understand your question.
Would an officer arrest somebody for trespassing if you told them, I don't see a problem with that?
Objection calls for speculation as to what another officer might do.
Let me hear on speculation objection.
He's just stated previously that his officers act as agents of him. I'm
Yeah, she said
asking
she
in
had
that
to
capacity,
cover.
does an officer have his authority to do that as their agent?
I think your question does call for speculation of the same.
Have you ever had an officer do that?
Did you what, sir?
Have you ever had an officer say to you, I'm gonna arrest that person, you say, I don't see a problem, and they do it anyways?
No, I don't think I've ever been in that situation, no.
And when you approached him, him being my
Yeah, she said she
client,
had to.
you never said to him, well, you can be here, but you're just being loud. You didn't say that, right?
No, I did not.
You didn't say to him, well, you can be here, but your sign is just too big.
No, I did not.
Okay. You just told him, you can't be here.
To go to the designated area.
There's no signs outside that small public park that say anything about this quote-unquote policy that you've talked about, right?
No, each time we've had protesters, either I or one of my deputies directed the protesters where they could protest.
Yeah, she said she had to leave, however, you could just talk.
You mentioned previously, I think you mentioned that something about weddings in that small public park, is that right?
I did not mention weddings, no, sir.
Okay, do you know about weddings happening in that?
Yeah, I've seen weddings occur in that area, yes.
And when people are having a wedding, you don't arrest them for trespassing, right?
Yeah, she said she had to leave.
No, sir.
Courts and orders were, I believe
Yeah, she said she had to leave, however, you could just talk.
Are you aware personally, do you have personal knowledge of whether or not Mr. Al-Jazeera was in fact arrested for disorderly conduct?
Do I have personal knowledge?
Yeah, do you know whether or not my client was arrested at that time for disorderly conduct?
I do not have personal knowledge, no. All I know, he was arrested.
Yeah, she said she had to leave, however, you could just talk.
No further questions.
Redirect.
Briefly. Sheriff, you testified you have been sheriff for 20 years.
Yes, I have.
Can you recall any time where protesters were permitted to occupy that center island?
No, sir. In fact, I recall in June of 2020, we had about 120 protesters that emerged at the courthouse, and they repeatedly tried to allow me to get closer to the courthouse, where the area you're talking about, and I did not allow them to get that close to the courthouse for the protection of the property and the employees and the citizens in the courthouse.
In the event of a security breach, is there sometimes a barrier that is erected?
Yes.
She said she had to leave, however.
Where is that barrier in relation to the center island?
It's located approximately 50 or 60 feet from where the defendant was at that date, and not allow people to emerge in the courthouse.
They'll be past the roundabout
Yes, yes, mhm,
in the roadway.
yes.
Thank you very much, that's all.
Thank you, Sheriff. You step down, Sheriff. Sheriff, free to go, do you want to be talking?
Yeah, she said she had to leave, however.
He's free to
Got
go.
your time, Sheriff. Who's your next witness?
Deputy Bishop?
Deputy Bishop?